Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today. Welcome to another edition of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today is a rising star in the women's division in the independent pro wrestling circuit. She works with many promotions right now in the Missouri, Nebraska, Arkansas, Kansas area, and I'm probably leaving out a couple states, I'm not sure. But I want to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Judie Azul. Judie, thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, I am too. We had a little scheduling conflict, my fault. I had something come up, but that's okay. So I want to talk a little bit, if we could, first. Judie, growing up, tell us about your childhood a little bit, if you would, please. Schooling, if you've done any additional schooling out of high school, and how you got involved in the wrestling business.
Okay, yeah. So I went to McPherson College. I got my bachelor's in elementary education. I played softball all through college. 17 years of my life was dedicated to, being the best softball player I could be. Once that ended, it was kind of like, okay, I was trying to be an athlete my whole life, and now it's just done. So what do I do? I happened to fall into wrestling. I was supposed to go on this camping trip for 5 days, saved up some money. My friend needed a plane ticket, so without hesitation, I, gave her that money, and then I had 5 days off to do who knows what. Well, the bar that I worked at, the DJ is Mr. Fitness 2. He happened to be going to Nebraska to an MWA show. There's a couple of them that weekend. And he's like, well, you have the time off. If you want to jump in the car with me, cool. He's fantastic. He's a good guy and everything. At the club that night when I went up there just to hang out, James Storm was there, which I had no idea who he was. I knew nothing about wrestling. I was just like, yeah, let's go. So he had took me with them, and after my first show of watching it, I was like, wow, this is so cool. We were sitting in the hotel room having a few beers, what we do after shows and everything, kind of hanging out, talking about, the matches and whatnot. And I was like, well, how do I get involved? Like, how do I do this? And the guys looked at me like I was crazy because, I'm just this random, girl that just came just to watch the show. And they're like, oh, like, are you sure? Like, you don't know what you're getting into. And I was like, no, I'm sure. I don't see why not. Like, it seems like a great business to join. And sure enough, Tuesday was when they were going to be training, and it just so happened that the last 2 years I had Tuesdays and Thursdays off, and so I started commuting 3.5 hours there, and then 3.5 hours back to train.
Wow.
Showed up that next Tuesday, and I was ready to go. I was sore like crazy after. I don't even know how I pushed myself through that, looking back at it, but that's kind of where or how I ended up in this crazy world.
Wow. That's pretty neat story. You just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and already being an athlete, that probably helped you a little bit. I mean, ring shape is different than softball shape, I'm sure.
Definitely a shock.
But you mentioned in the before we got on here that you're training with Niles Planck, Craig
Planque. You know,
Planquet, excuse me,
Blanca.
Planquet. Planquet. Uh, Tell us what that's like training with him.
It's honestly great. He breaks stuff down so well, and um, like I said, I kind of just like fell into wrestling. So I didn't know, you know, how good of hands I was in until a little bit after. You know, Mr. Fitness was like, "This is one of the best trainers around," you know, in the area, especially. And I was like, "Okay, sure, like, let's let's go." And
Yeah.
looking at it, it's just like it's kind of I'm very grateful to
Yeah.
have a great trainer. You know, he the way he breaks it down is just it simplifies it so much, especially for someone like me, you know, knowing
Mhm.
minimal stuff when I came into it and being able to put it in a language that an athlete, you know, can comprehend. Um,
Right.
it's very neat to have that.
That, that's pretty interesting. He could break it down. I always, when I see him at the shows, I I get a kick out. I mean, he's a very good wrestler. There's no doubt about it. And he's very good. His character
Yes.
is very well portrayed. Uh, but when it's such a, I guess, kind of like yourself, polar opposite. You know, when he's outside that ring and in normal life, you know, he's a really good person. He
Yes.
does a lot of different things. Uh, like yourself in the ring. Well, at least where I'm at, you're a heel. You like
Right.
to you like to harass the crowd and get them fired up. How
Hmm.
do you like being a heel? Because you don't seem like the heel type at all. But is that something that's kind of like deep within you? You're like, okay, I can get this out and kind of let off some steam.
Oh, it's been a challenge. It definitely is the polar opposite of me. I'm a very bubbly person. Like, you know, I kind of just I love being babyface. So that comes easier to me, but being a heel, it's
Yeah,
like flipping that switch of, okay, I can't just go and hug the kid, you know, like that is running up to me, you know, it's definitely different, especially with having my background in elementary education, you know, kids are
yeah.
like, I love them, you know,
Mhm.
they're fun and whatnot, they're great. Um, and having to like, you know, go to give a high five and take it away, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I don't know like how to explain this to you. You're five. Like
Yeah, yeah. I can understand that if your gut tells you to give the kid a high five, but if you're in the heel roll, you gotta like push it, pull it back, and say, "Not this time, sorry."
right, and
Uh,
they're confused, you know, looking at me all
yeah.
sad and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, they're gonna remember this moment forever." Like,
I will say though, at your guys' shows, at least at Mid States, I know you all have your areas prior to the show, at intermission. If you're selling merchandise or meet and greets, um, I've always noticed that all of you are so good and professional. You talk to the fans, and you don't push to sell your merchandise if you have it. Your willingness to take pictures without, you know, here I need $5 or whatever.
right,
And that's to me, and I told this some of your other people that have come on the podcast that to me personally as a fan says, okay, well, you know what? They're not pushing it. They've got some nice stuff here. They're not charging me to take a picture. You know what? I'm going to buy a picture, or I'm going to buy a t-shirt, or I'm going to buy whatever for
right,
15, $20, whatever it is, you know, because it's just a different mentality of where other shows, you know, here's a t-shirt, $25. You got to take a picture. It's $10, whatever.
right,
And I don't, have you probably been to those type of shows where they kind of like, okay, we got to push this stuff out and
Yeah, I've definitely seen it and whatnot. It's just, to me, it's not about, the money and stuff. I know that, obviously money's nice, great, whatever, but
yeah,
taking a picture takes about 2 seconds. And I mean, in all reality, we're all human and whatnot. So I just don't understand, like, oh, okay,
yeah,
$10 for this picture, when,
yeah,
I mean, I don't mind taking a picture with somebody.
yeah,
It's, it's simple.
yeah, yeah. What I enjoy too, Judy, is the fact that you guys are all, as far as in that area, that you're all the same as far as you're welcoming, you're kind. I mean, you're out of character, I guess, for that time.
Yeah.
So it probably confuses the kids a little bit when they.
Right. Right. And there's several kids at Mid States that come, and they just, I can't,
Yeah,
be, they
yeah,
come running up to me and I'm just like, hi, like, I
yeah,
can't stay in character, at times. I'm just like, oh gosh, like I forget, like I'm supposed to be here. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's,
um,
but it's great, you guys. And I talked to Jason Jones a few times, and I love the atmosphere too of Mid State. And I haven't been to New
mhm,
Breed or Mid America. I haven't been. I'm sure they're very similar, but I've
mhm,
always noticed at Mid States, Arkansas, here in Springfield, Kansas, the fan base. I mean, you're sold out. I mean, you're here,
mhm,
at least here. You've been sold out
mhm,
every time, and
yeah,
I think that's great, and I'm sure it's good for you guys because you're like, we're doing something right, and okay, I'm going to
yeah.
ask you
Mid
another
States is
question here.
definitely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, mid states, yeah, good, I love it. Let me ask you this: you've been in some great matches that I've seen. You and Miranda Gordy, Bad Street Beauty. Uh, what's it like working with her? You guys seem like you're in sync pretty much. What's that like working with her?
So it's been a while since I've worked with her. I To me, it's just, I feel honored to be able to work with somebody with, such great experience and the background that she comes from. Not everyone gets that opportunity, to be able to work with someone like that. So
Mhm.
I try to just learn as much as I can you know, when I
Yeah,
am given the chance to work her. And it's one of those things that I've I've gotten something out of every match that we've had.
yeah,
She's great at what she does and everything. Actually going to be working her and Niles, and I'll be tag teaming with Brian Blade in May,
okay,
in
okay,
Kansas City. So that'll be a great, opportunity.
yeah,
All three of them are, have been in the business for a while and they know what they're
yeah,
doing. They, I'm going to definitely get some
yeah,
good stuff out of, uh, facing
yeah,
those two and, tagging with Brian and stuff. So I'm excited for that.
yeah. How long have you been in the business? A couple years?
Oh, I started training in May.
Oh, a year? Oh
And
my
that,
goodness!
yeah. My first match was in August, was a squash match against Miranda Gordy. And then my first like actual or singles match was in September.
Wow. If you're watching this, you probably see my facial expression. I thought it was longer. So I will say, uh, Craig has done an excellent job with you, and you retaining that and those abilities. I mean, I thought it was longer.
Yeah,
When
I got that reaction a lot, and it it's kind of cool because I don't realize
yeah,
exactly like how far I am, necessarily.
yeah,
I have always been one to, I'm my biggest critic, like I just am constantly trying to get better and trying
yeah,
to like push myself and whatnot. But then,
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I don't, to me, I can always improve and whatnot. So, I can
Well,
tell by your reaction that it's kind of like
yeah,
a shock.
no, you're fine. No, I'm very surprised. You're the second person I've talked to that uh, has been in this business for a short time. Joe Helms,
Mhm.
Silverback, has been in it for, I think, maybe not even 2 years yet. I talked to him, and that blows my mind. So that tells me, as a fan, that you guys are getting trained right, trained the right way and efficiently, and you're catching on. It surprises me, and that's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Craig and Jason, those guys, they run their training, I believe, every Tuesday night down there, and
Mhm.
wow,
Yeah.
I'm
Did you ever wonder what could have been with the AWA had things gone differently? Had their fortunes gone differently? Had certain wrestlers not left and perhaps more money would have been at the disposal of the Ganyas? Well, wonder no further. You can go to Brad Drake's YouTube channel and experience the 1987 Supermod for yourself, as Brad Drake starts off in May 1987 along with Greg Gagne, Baron von Raschke, Vern Gagne himself, Nick Bockwinkel, Larry Zbyszko, Kurt Hennig, and a slew of others as he plays and saves the AWA.
very
So like I
surprised. So
said, the show that I went to in was in May with my with Mr. Fitness 2, and that was the first wrestling show I'd ever been to. Like I
mhm.
started the weekend, I observed the Friday, actually it was Thursday as a fan. And then I was hanging out with the guys and stuff, and then it turned into, a whole different perspective
Yeah,
within a couple days. So it was kind of cool, just to do that. And like I said, being an athlete, I've always been
yeah,
pushed and challenged and stuff in new ways.
yeah,
And like, so this, when I went to the training, I was like, yeah, I'll flip. Like, I don't care. Like, sure. Like, I can do that. It's one of those things that as long as I don't like sit there and think about it,
yeah,
then as
yeah,
long as I can jump into it. But then
yeah,
once I start like, well, maybe like if this goes wrong, then that's when I start to
yeah.
hesitate and whatnot,
Overthink
which is
it.
never good. Yeah, which is never
Yeah,
good. So I'm just the
yeah,
type that a backdrop.
yeah,
I was like, yeah, like just sure, like let's go for it.
yeah. I'm sure at first, hitting those ropes, I don't think people
Oh
realize. I didn't really realize it either until I actually paid attention to up close and hitting those ropes. Tell us about that. I
yeah.
mean, you're probably getting used to it now, but I mean, hitting those ropes at first. Tell us a little bit about the training. That.
Even I mean, even now, like I just it doesn't bother me as much anymore, but in the beginning, my back and my, top of my bum was completely black and blue. It was bruised. It bruised like a peach. So, um, I was the next day I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm kind of sore. Like there might be a little bruise there. I looked in the mirror and it was just completely the biggest bruise that I've ever had on my body. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I have a picture on my phone still that I look back at, and I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Like, what made me think that, oh, it's fine, like it's okay, like just keep pushing through it. Um, but the training and the soreness is unreal. Like I said, looking back at it, I don't know how I even muscled through that because the next day after my first training, I woke up and I couldn't even lift my neck. Like I had
Oh.
to physically like, pick up my head with, and I was sitting there like, am I okay? Like
Yeah,
what is wrong? Is this normal? And come to find out it is. It's just soreness, it goes away. But
yeah. Wow.
my body's always, a
Yeah,
little a little tender.
yeah. I can imagine. Wow. Your first match, you said, was a squash match
Mhm.
with Miranda. What was your emotions like for your very first match? Were you
Oh,
er,
so it was at Rocky Mountain Pro. The training group, we were all going, and whatnot. I was going along for the ride. That's what my mindset was. I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll go to this Colorado trip. Like, sure, I'll go watch some wrestling and stuff. And then Craig was like, well, everyone's going to have something. So, you're going to, need to have gear and stuff and be ready. And I was like, at that time, I started training in May and it was August. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, am I ready? Like, he's like, oh, you're ready. Like, and obviously he knows what he's talking about and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's like, okie dokie. And it was, and just emotions poured in as soon as I stepped into that ring. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like this is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew what it was. Like I knew I was getting, I was there to make Miranda look strong and whatnot. And it just it is a feeling that even to this day, like getting in the ring, it's just
Yeah.
it's almost unexplainable of how it does feel, because it's nerves that you didn't even know that you had. And like I don't, half the time, like when it comes to like what people are saying and stuff, it's just like tunnel vision. It is almost overwhelming. But I've gotten better at it, or better at like calming like my nerves and stuff, because people say stage fright, talk about stage fright and whatnot. Now, not only do you have that nerves of being in front of people, you also have to remember, how to work with, the other person that you're facing safely, and making sure that, you're doing what you need to do, and making it as entertaining for the crowd as well.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I think, I don't know, this is my opinion. If you're not even a veteran that's been in there for years, if you're not a little bit, they'll have a little bit of butterflies, probably something not good is probably going to occur.
Right.
You're going to get
now,
too
mind
comfortable.
you, this was at Rocky Mountain Pro, so it's TV tapings.
Yeah.
So my first match ever is not only, just in front of people, it is being recorded. Like, and I am like, okay, well now this is a whole different level of, nerves. I'm like, okay, I can't mess up, which I ended up, I did. Right after Miranda powerbombed me, I just stood up and walked off. Like I didn't know, but, like I was just like, okay, it's done. Like, let's go. And I got back like to the back, and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, the hell if I know. Like, I don't know. Never did that again. Never did that again.
Yeah. Well, you live and learn, right? You live and learn.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Judy, let me ask you this. Who is probably, I mean, you've been in this for a little less than a year, but up to this point, who is a person that you've really enjoyed working with in the ring, either as a tag team partner or as an opponent? I mean, who's probably been one of your, just things click, everything's great, we're hitting all cylinders. Is there anybody in particular that?
I have worked Kelsey Magnolia fairly often. And every time we get in the ring together, there's something that improves. Our chemistry is there, because we are able to, I guess, work more frequently. We know what works, what doesn't, and whatnot. So it's something that challenges us to want to just elevate our matches, each time. So it makes it enjoyable, to be able to challenge each other and be like, okay, well, what can we do, to give the crowd something that they haven't seen before from us, at least, or even seen from other people, because I mean, that's the beauty of being comfortable with somebody in the ring and knowing that what we do is going to be safe, and it's going to be almost a wow factor of, let's see what we can show them without, repeating a lot of stuff. So
let me ask you this, if I may. Family, how do they feel about you doing this? Are
Oh
they
goodness.
were they a little bit shocked about it at first, and then they're okay with it, or how's that?
Yeah, they thought I was crazy. They probably still think I'm
Yeah,
crazy. I don't know. But it was one of those things, like especially with my mom, she knows how I am. Like I have ADHD. I'm always picking up new hobbies and stuff, and I master them, and then boom, like 6 months later, I'm like, oh, I forgot I could paint, or like, I forgot that, I was doing this and whatnot. So
yeah,
she thought it was one of those things of, okay, Judy, like, sure, you're gonna do this for, a few months and then you'll, forget about it. But I'm like, no, this was, the part of my life, of sport and, being an athlete and
yeah.
stuff that I missed. And
Hmm.
you're conditioned for so long, being an athlete growing up of how,
Yeah,
life is. You train before school, you go to school, you
yeah,
train, and whatnot. So it was like weird for me not to have something like that. So now that
yeah,
I have that back, the sport back in my life, it's like,
yeah,
okay, I feel this is where I needed to be. And it's something that I didn't know.
yeah,
I never even would have imagined I would have,
yeah,
been pursuing a wrestling career
yeah,
at 26. So it's just like, okay,
yeah.
wow.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I want to tell you about a new podcast out called Fouls Count Anywhere. It is a classic pro wrestling podcast that brings you the legends of wrestling with true wrestling fans Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. They bring on guests that are legends in this business, and as well as wrestlers of today, promoters, referees, you name it. They have them on there, folks. And I encourage you to listen to them. If you're on YouTube, watch them. They drop every Saturday. They have their podcast, and they drop it in the afternoon. So look forward to that podcast coming out. Falls Count Anywhere podcast with Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. Folks, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. And enjoy the podcast. Well, hey, you're pretty young. You have a lot ahead of you for a future. I mean, like I said, for being in the business less than a year, I'm very surprised. I'm happily surprised at how you are doing and how well you do in that ring, and even the ring and in-ring ability per se is a very important part of it, but your persona, your character coming out of that curtain into the ring, doing what you do, interacting with fans, that's important too.
Well,
And
thank you.
I and I'm not just saying this because you're on here. I mean, I wrote this in this letter or this article I wrote, that you are a shooting star, and
Well,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that. And that's something that
yeah,
like with you, commenting on my character work and whatnot means a lot because
yeah.
that's something that I feel I struggle with. I
Oh,
am always thinking like I can, do better. I can interact with the crowd more. I can, there's so
yeah,
many things that, go through your head
yeah,
after your match or like even before and stuff. Like I'll be like, okay, like we are going to interact with the crowd more. Like that's what my focus is, because that's what
yeah,
we're there for. We're there to put on a show and everything. So
yeah.
just knowing that I am doing a decent job at that
Hmm.
is something that I guess I am grateful to hear. So
Yeah. Well deserved, and well, you're doing great. So you never interacted with pro wrestling before. Do you watch it on TV at all now, since you've kind of part of the business? Do you watch the,
yeah, I mean, well, uh, my boyfriend, he's always got it on TV, and that's
yeah,
Burt Cameron. He
yep,
he is definitely a wrestling fan. Like he has, I mean, action figures and whatnot, and like all that stuff. He knows so much about it, and
yeah,
he does watch it regularly and whatnot. So obviously, I watch it too. But
yeah,
it's one of those things that even when I played softball, I just I never watched the sport. Now,
hmm,
obviously, I'm I have to watch it to learn and, to get new ideas and whatnot.
Hmm.
But it's it's definitely something that I try to watch more of the old stuff, because a
Yes.
lot of the new stuff is very athletic, or focused on the athletic. What can I do? How can I flip and, spring off the top rope
Yeah.
and do all this
Yeah.
stuff, when in all reality, the storytelling is, huge in the old
Yes.
school way. And that's what,
Yeah.
Craig is, he's an old
Yeah.
school trainer. He
Yeah.
shows us, things that what he learned. So
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to watching it, that's what I prefer,
Yeah.
and what keeps me intrigued. The new stuff, I went
Yeah.
to my first SmackDown show this last Friday, which was super cool. Like
Yeah.
um that was awesome. Craig was doing extra work, and Miranda, she knows people out there and whatnot. So we were like
Yeah.
front row, and it was surreal. It was like, oh my gosh, like this
Yeah.
is like this is right here. It's amazing,
Yeah.
whole different
Yeah.
perspective, seeing these people that are professionals, like just working, and they're constantly, working the crowd. They're constantly,
Yeah.
doing stuff. And it's like, wow, like this is what, I'm looking forward to. Like, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
someday reaching that goal, or reaching that,
Uh,
that dream and whatnot. But it was like,
Yeah.
oh, like this
Yeah.
is really
I
neat.
think honestly, if you keep going the way you are and just being like a sponge and growing that experience, I think you will be there.
I mean, it would be even cool just to be, extra or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the opportunity of being able to,
Yeah.
go with, Miranda and stuff, and sitting
Yeah.
so close, and like it was one of those moments of like, this is what I'm chasing. This would be
Yeah.
like the top, like reaching the top.
Yeah.
So it kind of was neat and whatnot to see it
Yeah.
all live and in
Yeah.
person and so close. And
Yeah.
seeing the WrestleMania big old sign, like, goes
Yeah.
Hollywood, like,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That is cool. Yeah. The only thing I don't like is the commercial breaks. They just kind of go dark for a minute,
Yeah.
and then I know they got to set up for the next thing or whatever. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that
You don't
really
realize
bugs me
how
about.
much, like,
Yeah.
you don't realize how much time, like, it takes. Because on
Hmm.
TV, you see the commercials and stuff. So you can go to the bathroom, you can go
Right.
do whatever you got to
Yeah.
do. But when you're at the show, I was just like, this is a lot, like, shoved in, shoved into
Yeah. Yeah.
uh it's a lot to just sit there.
Yeah. 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 All right. One more question, young lady, if we may. Tell us what you're up to now and any future events coming up here in the next few months that you're going to be a part of.
I am just, trying to continue training, staying in shape and whatnot. Like
Mhm.
I said, I'm gonna be in Nebraska this weekend, with McCook and Beatrice. I'll be facing Raven Thrash on Friday, and then not exactly sure who I'm going to be working on Saturday, but that's with MWA. I work that promotion pretty frequently. Um, this year I'm really focused on just getting experience and trying to get as many
Yeah.
matches as I can. I believe I hit 29 matches last, or 2 weeks ago, which was the Springfield show, which
Wow.
I'm just trying to, you know, just keep pushing forward and getting
Yeah.
experience and whatnot. I'll be working with TAPW in April. I'll be going up to Oklahoma doing Wrestling for a Cause on April 1st. And, like I said, in May, I'll be working with Brian Blade against Miranda and Niles. So that's a great
Mhm.
opportunity I have ahead of me.
Yeah.
My schedule's filling up. Weekends are slowly
Yeah.
disappearing, of availability. as
Yeah.
the weeks go by and stuff. So
Yeah.
this summer, there's a lot of exciting things, lots of travel, and
Yeah.
continuing just to get matches under my belt to continue to grow towards, chip away at that dream.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Judie Azul. Thank you for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. Folks, if you're in those areas, get out and see this young lady. I've seen her. She is a rising star for only being in this business for less than a year. Watch out. She's going to be on one of these major programs here in the next couple of years. I have a feeling that you will be.
Thank you so much. I appreciate,
Yeah. Yeah.
the hope and stuff, and the support behind me
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Very grateful for it. I'm grateful to be surrounded by so many great people
Yeah.
that have experience in the business and whatnot. So thank you for having me on your podcast, and who knows, maybe we'll link up again.
Yeah. Hey, if you hit the big time, you gotta come on here and tell everybody, and give me a front row seat if you're in the area. Okay. All right. One more time is Judie Azul. Thank you for coming on today. Really appreciate it. Folks, if you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will talk to you soon.